Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another of MrEman's Top 5. Today, I want to discuss, having just finished at the time of recording this, the uploads for Kingdom Hearts 1. I want to talk about some worlds I want to see in Kingdom Hearts moving forward, specifically for Kingdom Hearts 4. Now, hopefully, by the time I'm done playing all of Kingdom Hearts on stream for y'all, we'll have at least some sort of news about Kingdom Hearts 4, and we'll see if any of these predictions actually come to pass. But if that doesn't happen, who knows? Maybe they'll listen and they'll put some of these suggestions in the game. One can hope. Now, some brief guidelines that I did follow while making this list was that any world included must be from Disney proper, so no Marvel or Star Wars. I am including Pixar as part of Disney proper for two reasons. One, at this point, Disney and Pixar are so closely linked, they're basically the same company in a lot of people's minds. And also, Pixar has already been included in Kingdom Hearts with the inclusion of Toy Story and Monsters Inc. in Kingdom Hearts 3. So there's already precedent there for Pixar being included. Some of the other guidelines are it must be a Disney movie, no TV shows. So unfortunately, nothing from Disney Channel like Phineas and Ferb or The Owl House. And it must be a new world, not a world that was already included in a previous game. Now, with that said, I do have two honorable mentions that do sort of break the no previous worlds rule. Firstly, that would be Wonderland. I would love to see more Wonderland, but specifically the live-action Tim Burton version of Wonderland, as sort of a continuation of the original Wonderland story. But then, obviously, since it's been so long in the world of Kingdom Hearts, all the characters have aged up, everyone's a little more grown, and I think it would reflect that to go with the Tim Burton version of Wonderland. Plus, not to mention, Tim Burton's Wonderland was a more action-oriented version of Wonderland, as opposed to the more, I don't want to say adventure, but I suppose that's probably the right term for it, adventure-type feel from the original Alice in Wonderland. So I think just sort of continuing that on, but making it the more dark, action-y type Wonderland that Tim Burton gave us would be a fun way to sort of bring Wonderland back to Kingdom Hearts. Now, my second honorable mention that does technically break the rule of not including previously seen worlds is Game Central Station from Wreck-It Ralph. Now, this one I say technically breaks that rule because Game Central Station was seen in Kingdom Hearts previously as part of Kingdom Hearts Union Key, Unchained Key, whatever the hell the game was called by the end of it, the mobile game. It was included then. But since that game is technically no longer available to play, it's kind of iffy if you want to include that as a previously seen world. I still do, so that's why it's only here under an honorable mention. But I do think it'd be interesting because obviously you have like Game Central Station itself and like Niceland where Ralph is from. And then you could also like visit areas based on like Sugar Rush and Hero's Duty. It'd be really cool to just kind of explore all of the games from Wreck-It Ralph. Also, I just really love Wreck-It Ralph, and I want to see more. I even didn't hate the second movie. Fucking controversial opinion though that might be. So yeah, those are just the honorable mentions. And with those out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the list proper with our number 5 entry on the list, the Kingdom of the Sun, as I'm going to be calling it, which is going to be a world based on Emperor's New Groove. I did have to sort of come up with a name for this one because the area they're in isn't really given an actual name. Like, there's no name for Cusco's empire given in the movie. So I just sort of had to make one up, and I decided to name it based off of the movie's original concept, which was going to be a movie called Kingdom of the Sun. But I feel like Emperor's New Groove would be a really fun world. It's got a really devoted fan base. You could have the story kind of pick up from where Lama Cusco first meets Pacha, and that's when Sora could show up. And then you're kind of, just going through the story there, dealing with the Heartless. You can have Yzma sort of like finding out about the Heartless and using them as like an army to try to get Cusco. and then at the end having Yzma turn into some sort of giant monster, like sort of getting corrupted by the Heartless before getting turned into the cat. Admittedly, though, from a story perspective, there's not much of a reason to include The Emperor's New Groove. I just really want it because I fucking love this movie. It is genuinely one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. Probably top 3, maybe top 5 if I'm being generous, and giving some other movies some time in the sun. But one of my all-time favorite Disney movies, and I'm a little miffed that it hasn't been included up to this point. So I would love to see The Emperor's New Groove represented in Kingdom Hearts 4. Now, for number 4 on the list, another one that I don't have much of a story reason to include, but have a little bit more of a logical reason to include, Metroville, which is the setting for The Incredibles. So, ideally, I would like to see this one have sort of like a Big Hero 6 type feel to it, where you kind of get to go around the city and like help out with The Incredibles doing stuff. Maybe in a story set sometime between the first and second movie, or maybe even after the second one. That's a little flexible. I feel like The Incredibles is a very popular franchise, like with more mainstream appeal than Emperor's New Groove, so I think it stands a decent chance of being included. I was actually a little surprised to not see it included in Kingdom Hearts 3, but I feel like they may have left it out because they had already included Big Hero 6, and they didn't want to double down on the superhero type feel. So maybe moving away from Big Hero 6, we can get The Incredibles in Kingdom Hearts 4. Now, for number 3, I do start to have some actual story reasons for the inclusions of these worlds, beginning with Encanto Village from Encanto. Yes, I did have to double check. The name of the village is actually Encanto Village. And personally, I would just have this one just be a straight up adaptation of the movie. Maybe expand on it a little more, let Sora explore parts of the house with Mirabel to try to help her figure out how to save the magic. But I think Mirabel's story would actually be a really fun parallel to Sora's, with Mirabel feeling lost without her sort of gift in the family, and Sora feeling lost without his friends, and him needing to try to find what makes him special without, and Mirabel has to find what makes her special without magic. So I think that would be a really interesting parallel there that I think would play nicely. Plus, Encanto is just a really fun looking world, and I think it'd be really cool to be able to run around and explore that. But for number 2 on the list, we have Dunrock from Brave. This is why I said Pixar is allowed to show up in addition to The Incredibles, because these worlds just kind of make sense. For Brave, I would also just sort of adapt the story from the movie, but include Sora. And Merida's story could sort of be used to remind Sora of the importance of his relationships after having gone to Encanto Village, because you don't want Sora to start feeling like he needs to do everything on his own and everything needs to be like, I can't put anyone else in danger, I need to do everything myself. Because Merida, yeah, she does try to do everything herself, but then at the end, she does sort of realize that she needs to forgive herself and she needs to be accepting of her family. And the family realizes they need to accept her the way she is. So I think Sora sort of realizing that and realizing he doesn't need to do everything on his own would be a nice little bow on including Brave as per Kingdom Hearts 4. But my number 1 all-time pick, world that I have wanted to see in Kingdom Hearts for literal years at this point, give me Atlantis from Atlantis the Lost Empire. Yes, I know this world would not be very popular because this movie was not a big thing. I don't care. Atlantis the Lost Empire is such an underrated Disney movie, and more people need to recognize that. That movie is amazing. So my recommendations for Atlantis the Lost Empire would be to have the story sort of pick up after the sub crashes. Just have Sora kind of show up either shortly before or right after it crashes and just kind of join up with the crew, and then head off with them to Atlantis proper. And then to even sort of tie Atlantis into Sora's story, Kita sacrificing herself at the end of the story to sort of keep the power of Atlantis contained and keep it going could sort of remind Sora of his own sacrifice from right at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, where he sacrifices himself to make sure that all of his friends survive the battle. But then seeing Kita come back could sort of give Sora hope that he can also find his way back to his friends, and that he can keep that connection alive, and that he does not have to fully give himself up to make everything right. Plus, the Heartless could also just empower Rourke when he gets that weird, like, energy glowy thing from that big fight right at the end of the movie. They could empower Rourke, and he could be the final boss of the world, which I think would just be sick. It would be sort of similar to what they've done in other worlds, with like Scar getting powered up in Kingdom Hearts 2, or there's a few other examples of the main villain just getting powered up by darkness, or even just straight up fighting Sora directly. I think in the case of Rourke, you would sort of have to give him some sort of power up, because otherwise he's just kind of a dude. But I would also just love the ability to fight him as the final boss. I think that'd be sick. But with that said, those are my top 5 most wanted worlds for Kingdom Hearts 4. So come back once we have some news on Kingdom Hearts 4, and let's see if any of those actually show up. Here's hoping.